Captain Jake Morrison walked slowly into the massive chamber where the Galactic Council met. The room was huge, with curved walls that went up so high they seemed to touch the stars themselves. Hundreds of alien beings sat in rows, looking down at him like he was some kind of bug they found on their shoe. Jake kept his face calm, but inside his heart was beating fast. Today was the day everything would change. For 30 long years, he and his people had been playing a game. A dangerous game where they pretended to be weak and stupid. Today, that game was going to end. The Velkari ambassador stood up from his seat. His blue skin looked almost purple under the strange lights, and his forearms moved in angry gestures as he spoke. The human species has once again failed to meet basic galactic standards, he said in his high voice. Their technology is primitive. Their understanding of space travel is like that of children. They cannot even build proper ships without our help. Other aliens nodded their heads and made sounds of agreement. Jake had heard these same words many times before. The Council thought humans were the weakest species in the galaxy. They thought Earth was full of people who could barely tie their own shoes, let alone travel between stars. Dr. Lisa Parker sat in the viewing area above, watching everything happen. She was one of the few people who knew the truth. Her hands were shaking a little as she watched Jake stand there taking insult after insult. She knew what was coming next, and it scared her as much as it excited her. The Threx ambassador rose from his seat. He was tall and covered in gray scales that clicked when he moved. The Threx Empire has decided, he announced in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. We will take control of human space. Humans clearly cannot take care of themselves. We will rule them for their own good. Many aliens clapped their hands, tentacles, or whatever they used for clapping. The idea of taking over human space made them happy. Humans were weak, so stronger species should control them. That was how things worked in the galaxy. Jake stood very still during all of this. His brown eyes looked straight ahead, not showing any emotion. But Lisa saw him touch his collar in a very specific way. It looked like he was just adjusting his uniform, but Lisa knew better. That small movement was a signal. It meant the show was over. Council members, Jake said, and his voice was different now. Before, he had always sounded nervous when he spoke to the council. He would stutter and say things wrong and ask for help with simple problems. But now his voice was strong and clear. It made several aliens stop talking and look at him with surprise. I think there has been a big mistake about my species, Jake continued. He walked forward a few steps, and something about the way he moved made the huge chamber feel smaller. For 30 years, we have been coming to these meetings. We have asked for your help. We have told you about our problems. We have shown you our struggles. The Velkari ambassador laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Yes, human. You have shown us how weak you are. That is why we must help you, like adults helping children. Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. We have shown you exactly what we wanted you to see. The chamber became very quiet. Even the aliens who had been whispering to each other stopped talking. Something in Jake's voice made them all pay attention. Let me tell you a story, Jake said, walking back and forth in front of the council. 30 years ago, when humans first met other species, we had a choice to make. We could show you who we really were, or we could show you what you expected to see. We chose to show you what you expected. Lisa watched as confusion spread across alien faces. They did not understand what Jake was saying. How could humans choose to look weak? You see, Jake continued, we studied all of you before we made contact. We watched your planets from far away. We listened to your communications. We learned about your cultures, your fears, your weaknesses, and we learned something very important. You are all bullies. The word bullies hung in the air like a bad smell. Several aliens started to stand up, angry at being called such a name. Jake held up his hand. Please let me finish. You attack species that are weaker than you. You take their planets and make them slaves. You destroy anyone who might become a threat to you. So we decided to never let you see us as a threat. The Threx ambassador's scales were clicking faster now, a sign that he was getting very angry. You dare to insult the great species of this galaxy? You, whose people can barely leave their own planet? Can barely leave our own planet? Jake repeated, and now he was laughing. It was not a happy laugh. Is that what you think? He pressed something on his wrist, and suddenly the air above the council chamber filled with images. They were pictures from space, showing ships. Lots and lots of ships. More ships than anyone in the chamber had ever seen in one place. The ships were not the small, ugly vessels that humans had been showing the council for years. These ships were huge and beautiful and looked like they could fight entire fleets by themselves, and there were thousands of them. These are our real ships, Jake said calmly while aliens stared with their mouths open. We have been building them in secret for 30 years. Every time we asked you for help with our primitive technology, we were actually learning about yours. Every time we showed you our failures, we were studying how you react to weakness. Dr. Lisa Parker felt her heart pounding as she watched the council's reaction. Some aliens were standing up and pointing at the images. Others were making angry sounds. A few looked scared. The images changed, showing planets that the council thought were empty or full of struggling human colonies. Instead, the pictures showed massive cities with billions of people. They showed factories that could build spaceships like toys. They showed weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Every report we gave you about our population was wrong, Jake said. Every story we told you about our struggles was a lie. Every time we begged for your help, we were actually gathering information about you. The Velkari ambassador was shaking now, his blue skin turning almost white. This is impossible. We have spies on your worlds. We have seen your cities. We know your technology. Jake's smile got bigger. You have seen exactly what we wanted you to see. Your spies have been watching fake cities built just for them. Your technology experts have been studying machines we made to look primitive. For 30 years, you have been watching a show, and you never realized it was not real. The chamber exploded into noise as aliens started yelling and arguing. Some were demanding that the images be proven real. Others were calling for immediate attacks on human space. A few were already trying to leave, probably to warn their home governments. Jake waited for the noise to die down before he spoke again. You want to make humans your slaves, he said to the Threx ambassador. You want to take our planets and rule over us because you think we are weak. But I have a question for you. The gray-scaled alien glared at Jake with hatred in his yellow eyes. What question, human? If we have been lying to you for 30 years about everything else, Jake said very slowly, making sure every alien in the chamber could hear him clearly. What makes you think we are not lying about being weak? The silence that followed was the loudest sound Lisa had ever heard. The silence in the council chamber lasted only a few seconds before chaos broke out. Aliens were yelling in dozens of different languages, their voices mixing together into a sound like a storm. Some were demanding proof that the human ships were real. Others were calling Jake a liar. A few were already activating communication devices to contact their home worlds. Jake Morrison stood quietly in the center of it all, waiting. He looked like a man who had all the time in the world. Dr. Lisa Parker watched from above as the alien leaders slowly realized that their shouting was not changing anything. One by one, they began to quiet down, until the chamber was silent again. I can see you do not believe me, Jake said in his calm voice. That is understandable. You have been watching us pretend to be helpless for so long that the truth seems impossible. So let me show you more. He touched his wrist device again, and the air above the chamber filled with a new image. This time it showed a woman in a blue uniform standing on what looked like the bridge of a spaceship. The woman had short red hair and green eyes that seemed to look right through the viewing screen. Council members, the woman said, my name is Admiral Kate Sullivan. I am speaking to you from the bridge of the human ship Destiny. Behind her, through a large window, space was full of stars. But as the camera moved, those stars turned out to be something else entirely. They were ships, thousands and thousands of ships, stretching out in perfect formation as far as the eye could see. Each ship was bigger than anything the council had in their combined fleets. They moved together like a school of fish, turning and banking in perfect harmony. The Threx Ambassador's scales were clicking so fast they sounded like rain on metal. "Where did you get so many ships?" he demanded. "It takes decades to build fleets like that." Admiral Sullivan smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "We have been building them for 30 years, Ambassador. While you thought we were struggling to construct one small vessel, we were actually mass-producing these in hidden shipyards across 12 star systems." The image changed to show massive space stations built inside hollow asteroids. Robot workers moved like ants, assembling ships that rolled off production lines like cars in a factory. The scale was incredible. These stations could build more ships in a month than most species could build in a year. "Every time we asked for your help with shipbuilding," Admiral Sullivan continued, "we were actually studying your designs to make sure ours were better. Every time we showed you our failures, we were learning about your weaknesses. Your military experts have been teaching us how to defeat you." A new person appeared on the screen. This was a man with gray hair and kind eyes who wore a simple, green uniform. "My name is General Paul Martinez," he said. "I am in charge of human economic operations." Several aliens laughed when they heard this. The Galactic Trade Federation had always treated humans like beggars who desperately needed help with basic economics. Human representatives had spent years asking for advice about trade and commerce, acting like they did not understand how money worked in space. General Martinez seemed to know what they were thinking. "I know many of you find it funny that humans would claim to understand economics. After all, we have been coming to you for 30 years, asking for help with trade agreements, and begging for access to your markets." He paused and looked directly at the camera. "But I have a question for you. If we are so bad at economics, how do you explain this?" The screen filled with numbers and charts that made several alien representatives gasp out loud. The data showed trade routes, shipping records, and financial transactions that spanned the entire galaxy. But these were not the small human operations the Council knew about. These were massive business networks that controlled huge chunks of galactic commerce. "Humans do not control 30% of all interstellar trade because we are lucky," General Martinez said. "We control it because we planned it that way. For 30 years we have been buying companies, creating shell corporations, and setting up trading partnerships using alien front men. You never noticed because you never looked for us." The Velkari ambassador was staring at the numbers with his mouth open. "This cannot be real. We monitor all major trade operations. We would have detected this." "You monitored what we wanted you to monitor," General Martinez replied. "Every human business you knew about was designed to look small and struggling. Meanwhile, the real human economy was hidden behind layers of alien companies and false identities. Your own people have been working for us for decades without knowing it." The screen changed again, and now it showed a woman with long black hair standing in what looked like a laboratory. Behind her, strange machines hummed with energy, and screens displayed information that made the alien scientists in the Council lean forward with interest. "I am Dr. Amy Foster," the woman said. "I am the Director of Human Scientific Research. For 30 years you have been watching us struggle with technology you consider basic. You have seen us fail to understand simple concepts and make embarrassing mistakes with equipment that your children could operate." She walked over to one of the machines behind her and placed her hand on it. "This is a quantum computer that is 50 times more powerful than anything your scientists have ever built. We developed it 25 years ago." The machine activated, and suddenly the air around Dr. Foster filled with floating displays showing complex calculations and three-dimensional models. The math was so advanced that even the smartest aliens in the Council could not follow it. "Every piece of technology we have shown you was deliberately made to look crude and backward," Dr. Foster continued. "We would take our real inventions and build fake versions that barely worked. Then we would bring these fake versions to you and ask for help making them better." She smiled, and the floating displays changed to show weapons that could cut through any known armor, shields that could stop planet-killing missiles, and medical devices that could repair any injury in minutes. While you were laughing at our primitive science, we were developing technology that is generations ahead of anything in the known galaxy. We have achieved practical immortality. We can travel faster than light in ways you cannot imagine. We can build machines that build themselves. The council chamber was completely silent now. Even the most arrogant aliens were staring at the screens with fear in their eyes. They were beginning to understand that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. Dr. Foster's image was replaced by that of a tall man with a beard who wore a suit instead of a uniform. "My name is Ambassador Kevin Thompson," he said. "I am the Director of Human Intelligence Operations." The words, intelligence operations, made several aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. Intelligence meant spies, and spies meant secrets, and secrets meant that someone had been watching them without their knowledge. Every human diplomat you have met over the past 30 years has been an intelligence officer, Ambassador Thompson said calmly. Every question we asked was designed to extract specific information. Every mistake we made was calculated to lower your guard. Every friendship we built was for the purpose of gathering secrets. The screen filled with pictures of humans working in alien governments, alien businesses, and alien military organizations. Some of these humans had been in their positions for decades. They had married aliens, raised families, and become trusted members of their communities. And all the while, they had been sending information back to Earth. "We know everything about you," Ambassador Thompson said. "We know your military capabilities, your economic weaknesses, your political divisions, and your personal secrets. We have been studying you like scientists study insects, and you never suspected a thing." The image changed one final time, showing Jake Morrison standing in the council chamber again. But now he looked different. The nervous, bumbling human diplomat was gone. In his place stood a man who looked like he could conquer worlds. 30 years ago, you thought you were meeting a species of primitives who needed your guidance, Jake said. Today you have learned that you were actually meeting your new masters. The question now is what we are going to do with that power. The council chamber erupted into chaos once again, but this time the noise was different. This time it was the sound of fear. The chaos in the council chamber slowly died down as Jake Morrison raised his hand for silence. The alien representatives were still in shock from what they had just learned, but Jake could see in their eyes that they were starting to understand how completely they had been fooled. "I know this is difficult to accept," Jake said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "But what you have seen so far is just the beginning. There is so much more you need to know about humanity." He touched his wrist device, and the air above the chamber filled with a new image. This time it showed a man with silver hair sitting behind a large wooden desk. Behind him, through enormous windows, was a view that made every alien in the chamber gasp with surprise. The view showed Earth, but not the Earth they had been told about. Instead of the struggling planet with small cities and primitive technology, they saw a world covered in gleaming towers that reached up into the clouds. Massive structures connected the cities like silver ribbons, and the sky was filled with flying vehicles moving in perfect patterns. "My name is President Steve Collins," the man said from behind his desk. "I am speaking to you from my office in New Geneva, the capital city of Earth." The camera began to move, showing more of the city. Outside, buildings twisted up into the sky like spirals of glass and metal. Gardens floated in the air between the towers, held up by technology the council had never seen before. Rivers of clean water flowed through channels in the sky, creating waterfalls that fell between buildings. "For 30 years, we have been showing your representatives small settlements and primitive factories when they visited Earth," President Collins continued. "What they saw were movie sets, built specifically to maintain the illusion that we were a backward species. The image changed to show the real size of human cities. They stretched across entire continents, housing billions of people in comfort and luxury. Orbital elevators rose from the surface of the planet like impossibly tall trees, carrying people and cargo up to space stations that sparkled like diamonds against the black sky. Our population is not the few billion people we reported to you," President Collins said. "We actually have over 50 billion humans living on Earth alone, and another 20 billion living in colonies throughout the galaxy." The Velkari ambassador stood up, his forearms shaking with anger. "Impossible. We have surveyed your colonies. We know where every human settlement is located." President Collins smiled. You know where we wanted you to think our settlements were located. Our real colonies are hidden in star systems you have never explored, protected by technology that keeps them invisible to your sensors. The screen showed dozens of human worlds, each one more advanced than anything the Council species had built. These were not the struggling outposts that human diplomats had complained about for years. These were thriving civilizations with billions of people, massive factories and military bases that could defend against entire fleets. The image changed again, showing a woman in a military uniform standing in what looked like a command center. Banks of screens surrounded her, showing star maps and tactical displays that made the alien military experts lean forward with interest. "I am Colonel Maria Santos," the woman said. "I am in charge of human military operations. You have been told that humanity has a small defense force made up of volunteers with outdated equipment." This was another lie. Behind her, the screens lit up with images that made several aliens cry out in fear. They showed weapons that could destroy entire planets, ships that could travel from one end of the galaxy to the other in hours, and robots that could fight better than any living soldier. "Every military demonstration we have given you was carefully designed to make us look weak," Colonel Santos continued. "When we showed you our best fighters being defeated by your training programs, those were actors following a script. When we asked for help upgrading our weapons, we were actually studying yours to make sure we could defeat them." The screens around her changed to show human military bases hidden throughout the galaxy. Some were built inside asteroids that looked empty from the outside. Others were disguised as research stations or mining operations. There were hundreds of them, each one capable of supporting a war that could last for decades. "We have been preparing for war since the day we first met you," Colonel Santos said. "Not because we wanted to fight, but because we knew that eventually someone would try to attack us. We wanted to be ready." The image switched to show a man with glasses standing in front of a wall covered with photographs and documents. The man looked like a teacher, but the information behind him was anything but innocent. "My name is Commander Ryan Burke," the man said. "I am in charge of human intelligence infiltration. What I am about to show you will be difficult to accept, but it is the truth." The wall behind him changed, and suddenly it was covered with pictures of humans. But these were not pictures taken on Earth. These were identification photos from alien governments, alien businesses, and alien military organizations. Hundreds of humans had been living and working among the Council species for decades. "Every major alien government has humans working in important positions," Commander Burke explained. "Some of them were born on your worlds and do not even know. They are human agents. Others volunteered for deep cover missions that lasted their entire adult lives." He pointed to specific photos as he spoke. "This human has been working in the Threx military for 15 years. This one helped design the Valkyrie trade computers that you use for all your economic planning. This one has been advising your scientists on quantum physics while secretly reporting their discoveries to us." The aliens in the council chamber were looking around at each other with suspicion and fear. If humans could disguise themselves well enough to work in their governments for years, how many other secrets did they have? "We know everything about your species," Commander Burke continued. "We know your military codes, your economic plans, your political secrets, and your personal weaknesses. We have been gathering this information for 30 years, and you never suspected a thing." The wall behind him filled with documents that showed detailed plans for every major alien civilization. Military strategies, economic vulnerabilities, political divisions, and personal information about every important leader in the galaxy. The humans had not just been watching their enemies, they had been preparing to destroy them. A new person appeared on the screen, a woman with short brown hair wearing a white coat. Behind her were machines that looked more like art than science, with flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. "I am Dr. Helen Ward," the woman said. "I am in charge of human psychological research. For 30 years, we have been studying not just your technology and your politics, but your minds." The machines behind her activated, filling the air with complex diagrams that showed the brain patterns of different alien species. Each species had different weaknesses, different fears, and different ways of thinking that could be exploited. "We know what makes each of your species afraid," Dr. Ward explained. "We know what makes you angry, what makes you trust someone, and what makes you make bad decisions. We have been using this knowledge to manipulate your reactions to everything we do. The diagrams changed to show specific examples. They showed how humans had used psychological tricks to make the Threx Empire more aggressive and overconfident. They showed how they had made the Velkari more suspicious of their allies. They showed how they had encouraged conflicts between council members while appearing to be innocent bystanders. Every reaction you have had to our presence in the galaxy has been carefully planned and guided by us, Dr. Ward continued. We have been playing you against each other while positioning ourselves to benefit from your conflicts. Jake Morrison appeared on the screen again, standing in the council chamber. But now the chamber looked different somehow. It seemed smaller, less impressive. The aliens who had seemed so powerful and important just a few hours ago now looked like children who had been caught playing with toys that were too dangerous for them. You thought you were the advanced civilizations and we were the primitives, Jake said quietly. You thought you were the teachers and we were the students. You thought you were the predators and we were the prey. He walked closer to the alien. Representatives, and many of them leaned back in their seats as if they were afraid of him. But the truth is that from the very first day we met you, we were the ones in control, Jake continued. Every decision you made about humanity was a decision we wanted you to make. Every advantage you thought you had over us was an advantage we allowed you to think you had. The silence in the chamber was complete now. Even the sounds of alien breathing and heartbeats seemed too loud. The question you should be asking yourselves, Jake said, his voice carrying clearly to every corner of the massive room, is not how we fooled you for so long. The question you should be asking is, what are we planning to do next? Jake Morrison did not have to wait long for his answer. As soon as he finished speaking, alarms began sounding throughout the council chamber. The aliens looked around in confusion as their communication devices started buzzing with urgent messages from their homeworlds. The Threx ambassador grabbed his communicator with hands that were shaking. His gray scales had turned almost white with fear. Admiral Kextar, report, he barked into the device. The voice that came back was filled with panic. Ambassador, we are surrounded. The human fleet appeared out of nowhere. Our sensors show nothing, but our eyes can see thousands of their ships all around us. Jake smiled as he listened to the conversation. Admiral Tony Phillips sends his greetings, he said calmly. He wanted me to tell you that your fleet has exactly 1 hour to begin withdrawing from human space before we demonstrate why we never actually needed your protection. The Threx ambassador stared at Jake with hatred in his yellow eyes. You dare threaten the mighty Threx Empire? We have the strongest military in the galaxy. Had, Jake corrected. You had the strongest military in the galaxy. That was before you learned that we have been building ships while you thought we were struggling to repair broken engines. The image screens above the chamber activated again, showing space battles that were happening right now. But these were not the long, drawn-out fights that usually happened between alien fleets. These were quick, one-sided massacres. Human ships moved like ghosts through space, appearing and disappearing without warning. They fired weapons that cut through alien armor like it was made of paper. When the aliens tried to fight back, their weapons passed harmlessly through empty space where the human ships had been just seconds before. The Velkari ambassador was also receiving messages, and his blue face was turning pale as he listened. Director Namtel is reporting economic collapse across our entire trade network, he said in a voice that was barely a whisper. A new person appeared on the communication screen. This was a woman with blonde hair wearing a business suit instead of a military uniform. My name is Director Nancy Adams, she said. I am in charge of human economic warfare. Behind her, screens showed stock markets crashing across the galaxy. Numbers that had been stable for decades were dropping so fast they were hard to follow. Trade routes that connected entire civilizations were shutting down. Currency values were collapsing as people lost faith in their governments. For 30 years, we have been building our control over galactic economics, Director Adams explained. We did not do this to get rich. We did it so that we could destroy any economy that threatened us. The screens showed the results of her work. 3 major alien governments were running out of money so fast that they would collapse within days. Space stations that depended on trade were already running out of food and supplies. Entire star systems were cutting off communications as their leaders tried to figure out how to save their civilizations. The beautiful thing about economic warfare, Director Adams continued, is that it does not require us to fire a single shot. We can destroy you simply by changing some numbers in our computers. The hegemony representative, a creature that looked like a giant insect, clicked his mandibles together nervously. Surely you cannot control all galactic trade, he said. The networks are too complex, too widespread. Director Adams smiled. Would you like me to shut down the food shipments to your home world? I can do it with a single command. Your people would start starving within a week. The insect alien's compound eyes reflected fear as he realized she was not bluffing. The humans had not just infiltrated galactic economics, they had taken control of it completely. But the worst was yet to come. A man with dark hair and a serious expression appeared on the screens. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations, but something about him made all the aliens in the chamber feel afraid. My name is Senator Carl Johnson, the man said. I am in charge of human political intelligence. For 30 years we have been recording everything. The screens around the chamber filled with video recordings that made several alien representatives gasp and try to hide their faces. These were private conversations between alien leaders, discussing things they never wanted anyone else to know about. There were recordings of the Velkari leaders planning to sell weapons to both sides of a war. There were videos of Threx generals discussing how to commit genocide against species they considered inferior. There were documents showing how the Council had been stealing resources from weaker civilizations for decades. We have recordings of every crime, every conspiracy, and every act of corruption committed by the major governments of this galaxy, Senator Johnson said calmly. We have been waiting for the right time to release this information. The alien representatives were looking at each other with terror in their eyes. These recordings would destroy their governments and probably start wars that would tear the galaxy apart. Some of them were already trying to leave the chamber, but the doors had been sealed. Please sit down, Jake said politely. We are not finished yet. A new person appeared on the screens, a woman with short red hair wearing a uniform that was different from all the others. Instead of showing rank, her uniform had symbols that looked like targets. My name is Major Beth Turner, the woman said. I am in charge of the Damocles Protocol. The name Damocles Protocol meant nothing to the aliens, but the way Major Turner said it made them all feel cold inside. Right now, at this very moment, every major population center in the galaxy is under the targeting systems of weapons that you cannot see, Major Turner explained. These weapons were positioned over the past 30 years while you thought we were struggling to build basic defensive systems. The screen showed images that made several aliens cry out in fear. Every homeworld, every major city, every important military base in the galaxy had invisible crosshairs placed over it. The humans had not just been preparing for war. They had been preparing to end all wars forever. The weapons targeting your worlds are not the kind that destroy buildings or kill soldiers, Major Turner continued. They are the kind that crack planets in half. They are the kind that turn entire star systems into clouds of dust. The Threx ambassador was shaking so hard that his scales were making a sound like rattling bones. You would not dare, he whispered. The Council would unite against you. Major Turner tilted her head as if she was thinking about this. Unite against us with what? Your fleets are surrounded. Your economies are collapsing. Your governments are about to be destroyed by scandal. And your homeworlds are one button press away from becoming asteroids. She leaned closer to the camera. The Damocles Protocol has been active for 5 years. We could have destroyed you all at any time. We chose not to because we wanted to give you a chance to surrender peacefully. The silence in the council chamber was broken only by the sound of alien breathing and the quiet humming of electronic devices. The representatives of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy sat in their seats like children who had been caught doing something very wrong. Jake Morrison walked back to the center of the chamber and looked up at all the alien faces staring down at him. 30 years ago, you had the chance to welcome humanity as equals, he said quietly. You chose instead to treat us as inferiors who needed your guidance." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Today, you have learned that we were never inferior. We were never weak. We were never in need of your help. We were always your superiors, and we were always in control." The Velkari ambassador tried one last time to sound important. "The Council will never accept human dominance," he said, but his voice was shaking. Jake looked directly at him. "Ambassador, you seem to think you still have choices. Let me explain your situation more clearly." He gestured to the screens around the chamber. "Your fleets are destroyed or surrounded. Your economies are under our control. Your governments are about to collapse. Your worlds are targeted by weapons that can end your civilizations in minutes." Jake's voice became very quiet, which somehow made it more frightening than if he had been shouting. "You do not get to choose whether to accept human dominance. You only get to choose whether you accept it before we demonstrate what happens to those who resist." The message was clear. The age of alien control over the galaxy was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and there was absolutely nothing the Council could do to stop it. The Council chamber remained silent for what felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. Jake Morrison stood in the center of the vast room, waiting patiently while the alien representatives tried to process what had happened to their world. Everything they had believed about the galaxy, about power, about their own importance, had been destroyed in the space of a few hours. Finally, the Velkari ambassador stood up slowly. His forearms were shaking and his blue skin had turned a sickly gray color. "What do you want from us?" he asked in a voice that was barely a whisper. Jake looked up at him with eyes that showed no emotion. "That is a very good question, Ambassador. What we want is simple. We want you to understand your new place in the galaxy." The screens around the chamber activated one more time, showing President Steve Collins sitting behind his desk on Earth. But now, there were other humans with him. Military officers, scientists, economists, and politicians. They looked like people who were about to take over the galaxy. "The Galactic Council will be allowed to continue existing," President Collins announced, "but its role will change completely. Instead of making decisions about galactic policy, you will now serve as advisors to human leadership." The Thrax ambassador's scales clicked together angrily. "You expect us to become your servants?" President Collins shrugged. "You can think of it however you want. The reality is that humans will now make all important decisions about trade, military policy, territorial boundaries, and resource allocation. Your job will be to help us understand how these decisions will affect your species." A woman appeared next to President Collins on the screen. She had gray hair and wore a simple black suit, but something about her made all the aliens feel nervous. "My name is Secretary Linda Hayes," she said. "I will be in charge of the new galactic government structure." Behind her, a document appeared, on the screen. It was written in the common galactic language, but the words it contained were unlike anything the Council had ever seen before. This was not a treaty between equals. This was a list of rules that conquered peoples were expected to follow. "All military forces will be reduced to local defense units only," Secretary Hayes read from the document. "No species will be allowed to maintain fleets capable of interstellar warfare without human permission." Several alien representatives started to object, but Secretary Hayes continued reading as if she had not heard them. "All interstellar trade will be managed through human-controlled systems. All new technology development will be supervised by human scientists. All territorial disputes will be resolved by human arbitrators." The list went on and on. By the time Secretary Hayes finished reading, it was clear that the alien species would have no real power left. They would be allowed to govern their own planets, but only under human supervision. They would be allowed to trade with each other, but only using human-controlled systems. They would be allowed to develop new technology, but only if humans approved it first. "This is slavery," the hegemony representative said, his insect-like voice buzzing with anger. Secretary Hayes looked directly at him. "No, this is the price of trying to enslave us first. You had 30 years to treat humanity as equals. You chose instead to view us as primitives who needed your guidance. Now you will learn what it feels like to be guided by a superior species. Jake Morrison stepped forward again. We will now take a vote, he announced. Each species represented in this council will choose whether to accept the new galactic order peacefully or to resist it and face the consequences. He looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at him. Those who accept human leadership will be treated fairly. Your people will be protected, your cultures will be preserved, and your worlds will prosper under our guidance. His voice became harder. Those who resist will discover what our weapons can really do. Your fleets will be destroyed, your economies will collapse, and your homeworlds will be reduced to rubble. The choice is yours. The voting began immediately. The Velkari ambassador was the first to stand. His voice was shaking as he spoke. The Velkari collective accepts human leadership, he said, and then sat down quickly as if saying the words had made him sick. One by one, the other alien representatives stood and announced their surrender. Some tried to sound dignified about it, talking about the wisdom of accepting change. Others were clearly terrified, stumbling over their words as they agreed to give up their independence. A few were crying as they spoke. The Threx ambassador was the last to vote. He stood up slowly, his gray scales now completely white with fear and rage. For a moment it looked like he might refuse to surrender. But then he looked at the screens showing human weapons pointed at his homeworld, and his shoulders slumped. In defeat. The Threx Empire accepts human leadership, he said in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. Then he sat down and put his head in his hands. Jake Morrison nodded as if this outcome had never been in doubt. Excellent. The transition to the new galactic order will begin immediately. The screens changed to show humans already taking control of alien military bases, government buildings, and economic centers throughout the galaxy. The takeover was happening so smoothly that it was clear it had been planned down to the smallest detail. Human administrators will arrive on your homeworlds within the next few days, Jake continued. They will work with your existing governments to ensure a peaceful transition. Those who cooperate will find the process pleasant. Those who cause problems will be removed from their positions. Dr. Lisa Parker watched from the observation deck as the reality of what had happened began to sink in. The galaxy that had existed for thousands of years was gone, replaced in a single day by a human empire that stretched across the stars. Everything had changed, and there was no going back. But Jake Morrison was not finished yet. He activated his wrist communicator and spoke to someone who was not visible on the screens. Control, this is Morrison. Phase 1 is complete. Begin implementing the Shepard protocol. Dr. Parker felt a chill run down her spine when she heard those words. She had been part of the planning for today's revelation, but she had never heard of anything called the Shepard protocol. What else were the humans planning? A new voice came through Jake's communicator, one that Dr. Parker did not recognize. Understood, Morrison. Shepard protocol is now active. All primary targets are in position. Secondary objectives are being established. Tertiary preparations are beginning. Jake smiled as he listened to the report. Excellent. How long until we can proceed to Phase 2? Estimated timeline is 6 months for full implementation, the voice replied. All species are responding exactly as predicted. No significant resistance detected. Dr. Parker realized with growing horror that everything they had just revealed to the Council, the massive fleets, the economic control, the hidden weapons, the infiltration of alien governments, had been only the beginning. Phase 1. There were more phases to come, and she had no idea what they involved. Jake Morrison looked up at the alien representatives one more time. They were sitting in their seats like broken toys, staring at nothing and trying to understand how their entire world had changed so quickly. I want to thank all of you for making this transition so smooth, Jake said politely. Your cooperation today has saved millions of lives across the galaxy. Your people will remember you as the leaders who chose peace over destruction. He paused, and his smile became cold. Of course, peace is only the first step in humanity's plan for the galaxy. Once we have established order and stability, we will begin working toward our larger goals. The Velkari ambassador looked up with fear in his eyes. What larger goals? Jake's smile grew wider. That, Ambassador, is something you will learn in due time. For now, let us just say that bringing order to the galaxy was never our final objective. It was simply the foundation for something much more ambitious. Dr. Parker felt sick as she watched Jake Morrison walk out of the council chamber, leaving behind a room full of defeated aliens who had no idea what was really coming next. The humans had not just conquered the galaxy, they had conquered it as the first step in a plan that none of the aliens understood. The act was over, but the real performance was just beginning. And Dr. Parker was terrified to find out what the next act would bring.